Welcome to Abolition News Network, December 1st, 1700. This is Bambi Meadow Lake at the home of William Penn Jr., built on 7,000 acres, 26 miles up the Delaware River from Philadelphia, called Pennsbury. We are going to discuss slavery as it was practiced here in the late 1600s. Our guest, a prominent Quaker, is the founder of the province of Pennsylvania. Please welcome Mr. William Penn Jr. Welcome.
Thank you.
Mr. Penn, before we discuss slavery, we would like to know the story of how Pennsylvania came to be, since this is your personal creation.
Well, partially. I have to give some credit to my father, Admiral Sir William Penn, and the King of England.
Okay, well, how about you start from the beginning?
I met a Quaker preacher, Thomas Lowe, in Ireland in 1667, and I found this sect to be exactly what I was looking for. So I joined the Society of Friends, as they called themselves, but I got into trouble for refusing to remove my hat for the King and the Duke of York. So I was sent to prison in the Tower of London in 1668, and there I began writing about the idea of returning to the basics of Christianity.
Well, it sounds like it was a pretty rough start, so is there anything that you had learned from this?
Not really. My father, by the way, was head of the British Navy. So when I was released, I wrote about the religious persecution that was widespread in England in 1670. Now, under King Charles II, 15,000 Quakers were sent to prison. Many died there, but due to my father's influence, I was released. But I was rearrested for being in contempt of court and for preaching in the streets. I was fined, sent to prison again, and I refused to pay.
So it sounds like you weren't learning any lessons here.
Well, not exactly. My father, Admiral Penn, died in 1670, and he left me with 1,600 pounds sterling and a claim against the government for 16,000 pounds. I was sent to prison again for refusing to take the oath of allegiance to the king. But eventually, I was released, and I married an heiress, Gulielma Maria Springett.
Okay, well, let's get to the main point then, that made you so famous, the colony of Pennsylvania.
Yep. By 1680, the Quakers felt the only solution to their oppression was a home of their own. There was no hope in England. So I asked the king to grant the Quakers a piece of land on the western bank of the Delaware River, across from New Jersey, in exchange for the 16,000 pounds debt that was owed to my father.
Wow, okay, so it sounds like you were asking to buy Pennsylvania for 16,000 pounds, is that correct?
Essentially, yes. Since after a long delay and many disputes in the English council, I remember I wrote on March 5th, 1681, "My country has been confirmed to me by the name of Pennsylvania in honor of my father, but I felt God had given it to me as a gift to be blessed as the seed of a nation."
Well, that is pretty awesome. So is there anything else that you can tell us?
Well, yes, I sketched out an outline of a free, industrious colony. The principal city I picked from a 2nd century city in Palestine called Philadelphia. It would bring a continuity of the biblical theme of brotherly love to the New World. Now, the city was bounded by 2 rivers, the Schuylkill and the Delaware, with the business district to be located in between.
Okay, so then let's get on a different subject that I know you and the Society of Friends have strong feelings about, the subject of slaves.
Yes, this is difficult since there are many aspects of slavery in our society in Pennsylvania, but there are a few points on slavery we do feel strongly about. Now, first, slavery was here first with the Swedes and the Dutch before we arrived, but it is inconsistent with the teachings of Jesus. It violates the golden rule, even though they are of a different race. And then, slavery reminds Quakers of the conditions that forced us to leave our homelands, oppression. And slaves are stolen goods. They were stolen from Africa, a sin. And selling slaves separates off husbands from wives. Now, these opinions we all share, but I would like to add one of my own. Now, our founder, George Fox, said to the colonists that Christ and God had made all nations of one blood, And Christ died for us all, for blacks and whites as well.
Mr. Penn, we need your help. We can't get milk out of one of your cows. Those new milkmaids you hired from New Amsterdam, we can't give the cow to give milk.
Well, what have you been doing to get her to give milk? Now, New Amsterdam, by the way, is now called New York City since 1667.
Well, they grabbed her by the horns, threw the cow on its side, pulled on its udder, and then it just started bellowing.
Miss Dimquat, is that who you are? What you have there is a bull. Cows do not have horns. You'll never be able to get milk from a bull. What these city girls from New York City just don't understand.
Oh, really? Well, I'll tell them they got a bull by the horns.
Can we conclude that this will have something with Pennsylvania becoming a free colony?
Well, it's difficult. There are some Quakers who are slave owners, but we could agree not to encourage more Negroes to be brought into Pennsylvania, as slavery is incompatible with our basic tenets. Now, we must also take care of the religious needs of those slaves we already own. Now, the Friends recommend slaves receive religious training, since there is the assumption that Negroes are capable of salvation.
Mr. William Penn, we honor you for a variety of reasons. Creating the city of Philadelphia and being the first colony to make a stand against the whole institution of slavery and the slave trade. This is Bambi Meadowlake for ANN saying good morning.